This brings me to the fourth objection to opening the church, which is based on the understanding that the command to gather in Hebrews 10:25 is only to be adhered to during regular normal times in society, and the need for in-person gathering is alleviated by technology. With this command in Hebrews 10, when placed in its context, reading, "Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near." With the context in which this command is given vital to understanding that unlike what those who object to this command being enough to justify resisting government authority and opening the churches would have us believe, this command is not hedged as if it was optional when times of trial begin, and only to be adhered to during less turbulent, more quote-unquote normal times by the church. Rather, the command to gather, as Scripture points out, actually becomes ever more essential to the Christian when times of trial begin. We know this because it is written, "All the more as you see the day drawing near," with the day in this context being Christ's return. And last time I read Revelation all the way back there at the end of the Bible, trials and tribulations are a hallmark of the beginning of the last days. Not to mention that I have never heard so many Orthodox Christians speak about the possibility that the time of Christ's returning may be near at hand as I have in these days. Thus it is clear from Scripture that as we continue to go through this pandemic, and as the trials keep mounting, and these days continue to become more dark and desolate, the imperative for Christians to open and gather together as the ecclesia does not become optional, but rather becomes ever stronger and more vital. Not only that, but this farce that church leaders continue to perpetuate, that virtual gatherings fulfill Christ's command in Hebrews 10:25, is absolutely absurd. This is because as humans, we all instinctively know that virtual gathering can never replace gathering in person. This is why no parent in the 21st century has ever said to their children, "You want to have your phones at the table? No problem. Let's all sit 6 feet apart, get on Zoom, and have dinner together virtually." It is why during this pandemic, hug tents have been set up across North America at long-term care homes to allow for family members to embrace one another in the midst of this pandemic, because talking and seeing each other over Zoom is no substitute. It is why our government currently has a propaganda ad on TV that states, by virtually gathering now, it will mean we can gather in person later when things return to normal. For we all instinctively know that there is no virtual substitute for in-person gathering, and thus Christ, who not only created us and so knows not only what is best for us, but loves us, would never equate the two. Not only that, but as Hebrews 10 makes clear, the purpose of gathering is not just to hear the preaching of the word. It is also to build each other up and encourage one another to good works, which assuredly would include the laying on of hands and the sacraments of baptism and communion, amongst others, all of which require in-person fellowship to be conducted. Also, I would point out here that Christ himself in Matthew 18 states, "Not when, but where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am among them," thus making it clear that Christ's emphasis when it comes to gathering together is that we do so in the same geographical location. It is why for centuries our church fathers understood and referred to the location where the people met every Sunday to hear the word of the Lord preached within the church building as a sanctuary, a holy place set aside for God that most assuredly was sacred, unlike your living room.
You've been listening to the Good is Done podcast. Check out more of the show on demand at anchor.fm, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Castbox, Pocket Casts, SoundCloud, YouTube, or wherever podcasts are found. Also connect with and follow LNCB on Facebook, Parler, and Twitter, at Good is Done Podcast.